I'm honored to be here tonight and share the stage with such amazing people, share this space with such amazing people. And I don't say that just to like say it. I really feel that. I feel honored to be here tonight witnessing this moment. I probably type way too much shit, so just bear with me. In October of 2023, my life was going through an upheaval. The future of my marriage and the state of my life was in flux. I was living in pain, fear, and that ache in my heart that you cannot escape, the one that comes in waves, grieving a reality that I had previously taken for granted as always being there. Stable, safe, predictable, that had vanished. And I was on the road at the time, touring in the States when October 7th happened. In previous eras of my life, maybe I could have ignored it. Maybe I could have scrolled past the days, months, and almost a year and a half of what was to come. But with my heart already being in a place of raw and vulnerable state that it was in, and the genocide that was underway in Gaza, it was impossible to ignore. I couldn't get on stage and pretend I was okay. I was not okay. I started learning about the history of the occupation, the political ideology of Zionism, Israeli settlers of the West Bank. I was watching videos coming out of Gaza and crying with friends. I started learning about how colonization, capitalism, and white supremacy need each other to exist and how they were at the root of the Nakba 76 years ago that never ended for the people of Palestine. I was taking it all in, and I was silent. I was scared. I was thinking about myself. I didn't want to be labeled anti-Semitic. I didn't want to get canceled and lose my career. I didn't want to lose fans. I didn't want to offend anyone. But at a certain point, I couldn't believe those voices anymore. My heart had just enough cracks in it that the light of Palestinian resistance, struggle, and unwavering faith cracked it open. I was experiencing what happens when the internal pain from being silent outweighs the risk of speaking up in moments of injustice. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you learn the real history, you can't unlearn it. Once you get past the media and the White House focusing solely on October 7th, once you begin to look at October 6th, 5th, 4th, and the 75 years before of oppression and displacement, that's when the truth opens up. And once you look under the hood and realize our government officials are bought and paid for by the Israel lobby, you can't look at our so-called democracy the same way. Once you understand that our tax dollars are funding a genocide that we are watching in real time in the palm of our hands, I believe it is our moral obligation to adamantly protest the atrocities we are witnessing and funding, or we are complicit. But lecturing others about morals doesn't work. I've tried. I post more. I share directly from Palestinians in Gaza. I uplift the beautiful Jewish voices in solidarity. I am inspired by scholars and academics, those that have spent their lives researching and learning, dispelling notions that Judaism and Zionism are connected. I write songs. I try to channel the insanity that I feel inside. But I don't know how to deal with this mad world that we were not meant to metabolize. The gaslighting, the lying, the bias, the language, who is a terrorist and who isn't, disregard of international law, disregard of American law, rewriting history, the erasure of truth in our schools. Don't you see it? Don't you get it? We have to fight. I get louder, but in the process, the last 6 months, I have become hardened. My heart that was open in October of 2023 feels distant at times. My ability to meet people where they are at has declined. My judgment of those to look away, remain silent, or centering their own fear has only risen as the months have gone on. I have wanted the world to wake up so desperately that a part of me has fallen asleep. And I keep coming back to the question, how do we get people to care? How do we get people to care? And it stumped me for the last 18 months. And in this last week, I've realized I've been asking the wrong question. The question isn't how we get others to care. It's how can we be of the utmost service to humanity? Because change occurs when we cultivate our own light, not dimming ours to match another's shadow. Change doesn't occur by calling each other out, but by calling each other in. Change isn't achieved in righteousness. It isn't found in resentment. Change doesn't happen with shaming another. No one has a spiritual awakening from being yelled at and hearing your own voice reverberate throughout the echo chamber of folks that already feel the same way that you do isn't stopping Israel and the United States any faster. True change occurs in the spirit. You cannot transmit love if you don't have it yourself. You can't force empathy and compassion on another if you lose those gifts along the way. If I am righteous with my heart closed, pointing the finger and yelling at people who feel differently than me, I am drinking the same poison I am protesting against. Division, them, us, right, wrong. So in this moment of dire urgency, with the next phase of genocide and ethnic cleansing underway, with our feeds flooded with a new era of martyred innocent Palestinians, when we open up our phones with our rage, our tears, our unanswered pleas in the face of a fascist government, how can we bring people in? How can we meet people where they are at? Coming to the table with all the stories we have been told, with all the baggage our ancestors accumulated along the way. Because we've been told some lies. Lies that uphold oppression, that double down on division. Lies that fueled fear as a mechanism to drive us further apart from one another. How do you show the necessity of collective liberation if we have never truly experienced it? How do you uproot the insane notion that we are separate from the Palestinian struggle? How does our own fear influence how we respond or justify violence against the most vulnerable populations? How do we unsubscribe to past generations' fences, walls, identities that perpetuate the disease thinking them versus us? How do we mobilize? Our history teaches us that the oppressed are never handed their freedom by the oppressor when asking politely. As people, we are far more powerful than our governments want us to believe. And when we infiltrate their systems of oppression with boycotting, divesting, and protesting, things change. That is why the Biden and the Trump administration cracked down on Meta, TikTok, and demonized students peacefully protesting like Mahmoud Khalil. Because this new way of learning and spreading the truth, it's actually working. My heart is not the only one that has been opened by Palestine. Millions of people around the world are having the same awakening from witnessing Palestinian faith, resistance, and struggle. The narrative is shifting. The people are the storytellers. The old guard of relying on Western media for accurate reporting is in shambles. They want to control the narrative, and they cannot. And that is why Trump's administration is so threatened by teaching the real story of America. One that is rooted in genocide and slavery, They don't want us to draw lines and see parallels of resistance movements of the past. Education is their greatest threat. The people united with shared analysis is powerful medicine. We believe it because we have seen it. We watched segregation crumble, slavery be abolished, apartheid in South Africa dismantled. We learned from the sit-ins, the Montgomery bus boycott, Columbia students in the 60s taking over Hens Hall. We have been shown by previous generations what it looks like to resist oppression in the seemingly insurmountable systems of supremacy that fall apart. Protesting against genocide, illegal occupation, and ethnic cleansing isn't complicated. Advocating for safety and equality for all human beings isn't against anyone, it's for everyone. We are literal guests on this earth, a rock spinning in space. We are here to make it better for all, not some. Not just for ourselves or the people that look like us or speak the same language or believe in the same God, but for those that are suffering the most. The structures that enable us to emotionally distance ourselves from another's fight to exist must be eradicated. What comfort are we willing to give up for justice? What seat at the table are we willing to share for a more equitable and just society? What if we all operated from a place of collective liberation over self-preservation? What if we saw the children of Gaza as our own? What if we heard our own 6-year-old in the voice of Hen Rajab begging to a 911 operator for someone to come save her? What if we saw ourselves in the men and the boys with black bags over their heads, stripped of their clothing, numbered, zip-tied, heading to the most inhumane torture one could imagine? What if we felt their hunger? What if we imagined their thirst? What if we thought about the U.S. bombs pummeling throughout the night, what that would feel like? What if we visualized every university, mosque, community, home, neighborhood, memories buried under the same rubble that was suffocating our relatives and our loved ones? What if we saw ourselves? What if we didn't see them? What if we saw us? This moment is the biggest threat to humanity we have ever faced. The earth is aching. Systemic oppression is advancing at a rate that none of us can keep up with. But we cannot allow our hearts to become hardened. The people of Palestine have given me the greatest gift. They have taught me what actually matters in this finite amount of time we have on this earth. My spirit has been reminded. I want to live in a world where standing up against genocide isn't brave, it's human. I want to live in a world where using our platforms to condemn ethnic cleansing isn't a risk, it's a given. I want to live in a world where advocating for the most marginalized isn't rewarded, it is expected. I want my children to know that Palestinian liberation is their liberation, is our liberation. They are not separate. I want all human life to be cherished the same, for all of us to feel safe walking this earth. And I would not have been able to reconnect to my own heart and envision this world had it not been for the people of Palestine. Your immeasurable suffering and pain will not go in vain. It has ignited this world. The next generation is alive, loud, growing, and unapologetically committed to this movement. We will not forget you. We are right here. We are not going anywhere. Free Palestine.